From beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, it's the Neglected News Report. I'm your co-host, Scott Mitchell, here with my brother Kevin.
Здравствуйте.
Yeah, he'll translate that for you.
It means hello
for a fee
in Russian.
Yeah, I know. I forgot what that meant. I took 1 year of it. He's had much more experience with it than I have. Anyway, guys, it is definitely cooling off here in the desert. I couldn't believe it, though. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. And it said the outside temperature was 92 on my app on my phone. I said, that's got to be wrong.
It must have been, because it's in the 70s, maybe high 60s at night.
Yeah.
But what I like to do, I have an Arcadia door in my bedroom, and when it starts getting cooler at night, I like opening it to cool off, with that, so I don't have to have my AC running. But this year we've gotten so much rain, we've got a lot of mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been able to do that because they like feasting on me they like my blood for some reason. Some people, they don't bother. Boy, they do.
They don't seem to bother me, but in my bedroom I have, some windows or a set of, pane glass that runs up the whole length of my door. And I can open them and there's screens, so I can do that in my bedroom if I want to. But it's cool enough in my room.
Well, the good news is we're almost done with October, and things really start cooling off in November.
Yep. So that means I got to get my plants in the ground quick. Already did the lawn last week. Anyway, all right. Kevin's kind of chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I want to start with this. I got a lot to talk about this. This war on women. This manufactured bunch of BS coming from the Democrat Party. Let's see. No, let me start with this. I'm going to get into this war on women because it has to do with Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, in a speech on, where was she? She was at Boston, for a gubernatorial rally for the gubernatorial candidate Martha Coakley, who's basically another Kennedy.
Who has never won an election.
Yeah, she's a Kennedy.
She's the one.
Wasn't the boy the one accused of murdering one of the Coakleys?
Yeah, I believe so. Emma Coakley was her name.
Yeah.
She also ran. She's the one that lost to Scott Brown.
Oh,
in the runoff election for Ted Kennedy's vacant seat.
Well, this is more on the same level as Barack Obama saying, "You didn't build that." She tells the audience, "Don't let anybody tell you it's corporation and businesses that create jobs," Clinton said. "You know that old theory, trickle-down economics," she continued. "That has been tried. That has failed. It has failed rather spectacularly." Was she talking about capitalism? What was she talking about?
Trickle-down economics. Well,
I get the trickle-down, but she's basically saying corporations and businesses don't create jobs.
Yeah.
Who does?
She's a moron.
But that's more the same Obama.
Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't think she's a moron. I think she knows that businesses create jobs, but the people who follow her and listen to her are morons, and she's counting on that. They're going to believe what she has to say.
But, but I don't get the whole, how can you say that business, who does create jobs then? The government creates nothing. They can't create anything. No. They have to, the only way that they do anything is through tax revenue.
Okay, here's the thing, folks. What product does government produce? Nothing. How can you say they create jobs? Jobs are created when a company, a business, a corporation, whatever, mom and pop shop, has a job that needs to be done. They hire someone to do that job, and they compensate them or remunerate them, or whatever you want to call it, at a rate that they think is fair. There was a time when there wasn't a minimum wage. Wages were worked out between the worker and the employer, and they came to a fair and equally agreed upon rate.
Yeah, I made $2.01. The minimum wage when I started at the age of 16 was $2.01 an hour. And by the way, folks, the minimum wage isn't meant for a 30-year-old.
Nope.
Minimum wage is the wage you get when you break into the workforce.
And if you're
a 16-year-old,
if you're 30 years old and your main job is still McDonald's, there's a problem.
There's a problem for you and for all of us, because if that's who's taking these jobs now, what's that say about our economy? The people who should be working those jobs are high school kids, pretty much, maybe college, but basically people who are just breaking into the workforce or going to school or what have you. But if you're trying to support a family on that, well, you're in trouble.
Yep.
But anyway, what I want to do, I want to shine the light on who the Democrat Party is now. The Democrat Party, they're leftists. At the very least, socialists. And I'll give you another good example as to why I say that. They're making a big push, right? One of the owners of the Oakland A's, can't remember his name now. Sorry.
Charlie Finley's dead.
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me, but I read the article before I got here. He's a multi-millionaire, probably billionaire. And he's not advocating Hillary Clinton for president in 2016 because he thinks she's too cozy with Wall Street. And I'm thinking to myself, who are you? Where'd you make your money? You know what these leftists exempt themselves. They think they're the only ones who made their money legitimately. Well, anyway, so you might ask, who then does this man want to see get in the race? Go ahead.
Lou Wolf or John J. Fisher are the two owners.
I want to say Wolf. Anyway,
yep.
One of them's really pushing to have one of two candidates other than Hillary Clinton. One of them is Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is she's a whack job. Sorry.
She's the one that claimed she was an American Indian. She
has blonde hair, blue eyes.
And I think they said she's like 132nd.
But she had high cheekbones.
And you know what? Kevin and I are more American Indian than she is. We're 1/16th.
Yeah.
But we don't go around calling ourselves American Indian.
Yeah, my mother's an eighth, my grandfather's a quarter.
And you could see it in him.
Yeah, my grandfather looked Indian. But anyway, Elizabeth Warren, and she's your quintessential lefty. She hasn't admitted that she's a socialist. She's cloaking right now, but she's just waiting for her time to fully admit it. On the other hand, the other person that this gentleman would like to see run for the Democrat ticket is none other than Bernie Sanders of Vermont.
Who, at least you got to respect him for one thing. He admits he's a socialist.
He's a socialist. Now, okay, if he's admitting to being a socialist, chances are he's really a communist.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm trying to make about the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party isn't the party of your grandfather anymore. These are like the FDR Democrats. Well, although FDR was pretty socialist. He had implemented a whole lot of
Social Security.
Yeah, the work acts and so forth, and everyone credits him with getting us out of the Depression. I think he prolonged the Depression himself. But
yeah, many are coming out and saying that now. And speaking of which, folks, if you want to see why we think this, there's a book you should read. It's called The Forgotten Man by Amity Shlaes. That's AMITY SHLAES. Read it. It tells you really what happened during that time period.
But right now, capitalism, free enterprise, free markets are under attack right now. And the Democrat Party is basically fomenting a lot of that. Let's cut to the quick. Capitalism hasn't been tried in this country for 100 years. With the advent of the Federal Reserve System in 1913, we basically have a fascistic form of government. Fascist meaning there's there's an agreement between business and government. They work hand in hand. They collude. They pick winners and losers. And case in point, GM. Who owns that? I don't know. Does the government owns parts of it? Do they make decisions on what product they're going to make? I think so. Just look at the Chevy Volt. GE's another one. GE doesn't even pay taxes. Doesn't pay federal tax. Doesn't pay income tax. Mm-hmm. And why? Because what's his name? Jeffrey Immelt is big in the Obama administration. As a matter of fact, he was a financial advisor to Obama some years back. He still may be.
Here's the interesting thing, and don't fall for this. I'm reading here on Wikipedia. It says, although fascism is usually placed on the far right, on the traditional left-right spectrum, a number of academics have said that the description is inadequate. Inadequate? Okay. That's putting it mildly, folks. It is not on the far right of the left-right spectrum. It's far left. It is a totalitarian form of government because why? It seeks to put government in control of everything. Just like socialism, just like communism. Don't be fooled.
Who do you think of when you hear fascism? I think of Benito Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
And who was Benito Mussolini affiliated with before he became a fascist? He was a communist. He was a self-described communist. He was a member of the Communist Party.
Yes, and very much like Hitler, when he came in, it was all sunshine and lollipops. He he put a chicken in every pot. He made the trains run on time. And then, slowly but surely, he took control of everything.
And by the way, fascism used to have a very positive connotation. All your quote-unquote brightest people in the room, academic types, loved Mussolini. And then he started killing people. He started clamping down on people's rights and so forth. And then it started losing its allure.
Here's the thing I find interesting. They go on to say in this article, fascist ideology consistently invokes the primacy of the state. Leaders such as Benito Mussolini in Italy and Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany embodied the state and claimed immense power. Okay. How are they saying it's a far-right ideology? These people who wrote this article don't even know. They're morons. If they're invoking the primacy of the state and they're calling it a far right,
they just equate that jackbooted thuggery, the boot on the neck forever, as George Orwell said. For some reason they associate that with the right, and it's never been about that.
And that has a lot to do with Hitler. He made a differentiation between Nazism and communism. He threw communists on the right. Or didn't he, or did he put them on the left? I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, he tried to differentiate between Nazism and communism, which there really isn't a lot of difference.
No.
Between them.
One, National Socialists were more beholden to they wanted to see socialism in a national sense, and the communists were more about workers of the world unite. It was more of a world movement.
Yeah, well,
it was a movement, by the way.
Communism was more about the state, Nazism was more about the state. Communism was more about the ideology, I think.
And the bottom line here is this is a perfect example of how the left controls the language. They put. I can give you a million different other examples where the term that is used today is totally different than what it was intended for.
Like the word gay.
Okay.
Perfect example.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why can't you say homosexual marriage? It's same-sex marriage, because it takes on a negative connotation, and when it does that, they have to change it.
They use pro-choice because to call someone a baby killer would not be acceptable socially or societally.
Pretty much. And, of course, they can't call it a baby. They have to call it a fetus. So.
And we're seeing it right now. No one can say that the attack in New York of the policemen in New York or in the Parliament building in Canada this week, no one can come out and say it was violent Islamic terrorism or Islamic terrorism. They got to call it, what are they calling it? Violent extremist violence.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they can't come out and say what it is. Until you can say what something is, you can't win against it.
And it's not only that, but it becomes really nefarious. I mean, look at the Fort Hood shooting. It's still considered workplace violence. And because it's called workplace violence, all the people, forget the people that were killed, all the people that were terribly wounded cannot get any
benefits.
Benefits.
Government benefits.
Because it wasn't considered terrorism or war or whatever, it was considered workplace violence. That's because you're president. That's because you're president. That's because of language. These people are entitled. The fact that you can't carry a gun on base is illegal.
But that goes way back before Obama even.
Fine, but he's obviously fine with it.
Yeah. He hasn't changed it since.
Oh,
and that was early on in his presidency.
Don't you remember how Bush was bending over backwards, it's stolen the virtues of Islam and how it was a
religion of
peace and, come on. Why, did you see that post I did yesterday by that British guy? Oh, he can nail.
Which guy? What was it about?
It was about Islam. And he's basically saying it's a crock of you-know-what, and that they're not peaceful. There's nothing peaceful about them. And
folks, I honestly believe there are some peaceful Muslims out there. I work with one, honestly, and he thinks what these radicals are doing is wrong, but he won't go so far as to say we should kill them. He still thinks we should talk to them. But anyway, that's beside the point. But read your history. Islam was spread by the sword. That
still is.
That's how it spread so quickly. I mean, Christianity was done peacefully. And don't bring up the Crusades. Do you know what the Crusades really were about? It was about the Christian world trying to take back the Holy Land from who? The Muslim world who took it over by the sword. That's what it was about. Read your history, folks. That's all it was about.
You know who Islam was very closely associated with in the 1940s? Nazism.
Yep.
Arafat was a huge Nazi fan.
I mean, just read your history. That's all we're asking. Don't take our word for it. Look it up. Even if you have to look it up on Wikipedia, but don't use it as your only source. Go to other sources too. There's plenty of sources up there.
It's more of a political and economic control system than it is a religion.
And if you want to see the real war on women, getting back to the original subject, all you have to do is go over and see what ISIS is doing, what the Muslims are doing in Sudan.
Here's what I got. I got it. Getting into this war on women thing, which is just gets my goat, because there is no war on women. Women are succeeding by every metric imaginable over men right now, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But what you're seeing a ramping up of this war on women, because they really don't have anything to run on. I mean, they can't run on anything Obama, nothing, zero. So this war on women is really setting us up for I think a Hillary run in 2016, because like Obama when he ran in 2008, they're going to hype up this whole thing that, America's not ready for a woman because we're sexist. Just like they were saying America's not ready for Obama because we're all racist. So therefore, how many people, Scott, you think in 2008 voted for Obama to assuage some guilt they had?
Out of whites, you mean?
Yeah.
A bunch.
Yeah.
I'd say enough to turn the election.
Sure. And then afterwards they felt better about themselves for some reason. I don't know why you engage in self-flagellation like that, but I didn't vote for Obama because everything he stands for is contrary to what I believe.
And the only, in 2008, a lot of what John McCain stood for is contrary to what I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's our senator and he's in the same party.
Every time I've had a vote for that man, I've had to hold my nose.
But he had more in common with how I believe than the other guy.
So
Romney had even more, but.
So what we're seeing right now is they're ramping this whole woman thing up. Because you're going to be faced with the same thing if Hillary gets the nomination in 2016. You're going to see this, anti-woman, rhetoric going on, and they're going to make people feel like they have to vote for Hillary out of, there's some sense of guilt.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready for it. And guess who they're trotting out now?
Who?
Gloria Steinem.
Oh, yeah.
Gloria Steinem. Now, tell me that's by accident. The ultimate quote-unquote feminist, who many think was actually a CIA plant, but I won't go into that. That's a little conspiratorial. But, Gloria Steinem, the ultimate, what was her famous quote? A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing like harmony between the sexes when it comes to feminism.
I
Right?
mean, she's 80 years old. We don't need to hear from her anymore.
No, but they're going to, because she is when you think of feminism, she is one of the people you think of, and they're going to be trotting her out and using her. Speaking of using, has anybody seen that? Oh gosh, horrendous isn't even the word, just disgusting video.
Yeah.
The little girls.
Talking about.
There were these five little girls, age 10, and it was put out. What was the name? Oh, I can't even tell you the group. It was F Hatred. Not fill in the word.
Oh, by the way, real quick on Gloria Steinem again.
Yeah.
Unlike at one time though, she was one of the more attractive feminists.
Okay, I suppose.
Well, I'm looking at pictures of her.
No, whatever. But what comes out of her mouth,
I know it ruins it.
Ruins the whole thing.
I mean, at least she wasn't like Molly Yard.
See, lefties always have to have us infighting. You have to have the races fighting amongst themselves, the sexes, everything. They have to. It's divide and conquer.
Exactly.
So anyway, this video, if any of you get a chance to look, go into YouTube and put potty mouth girls war on women. Just type in those words, and the video will come up, because I can't even. I would play it, but we can't. We don't have the beeps. We don't have enough beeps.
Exactly.
We don't have the technology to do it in this little studio.
I mean, it can be done, but I'd have to do it in advance.
So basically, what it is every other word comes out of the mouth. It's the F word, and these are 10-year-old girls, and basically the theory behind it is that if we should be finding that repulsive, we should be finding the war on women instead to be repulsive. Again, they're left always, like when they're trying to make a point about eating animals, they always walk around naked, in public, or things like that. It's like, okay, what's the point? There's a disconnect here. Okay, swearing 10-year-old girls and the war on women, and basically they go on to say they spew every urban legend regarding the inequities between the sexes, and they're all false. Like women make 30% of what men make. That boys who get C's become CEOs over girls who get A's, and that boys are rapists. At one point they say, if you don't like us using the F word, then teach your boys not to rape. Yeah. That's what they're saying. So boys are rapists. It's just, and then in the end, the mothers come in and basically reaffirm what the girls said. And, the whole thing is that
it's child abuse.
It is child abuse. You can't, you're having little girls. First of all, they don't even know what they're talking about. They're 10 years old. And this is the first step, in the road to indoctrination. Probably isn't the first step. It probably started in kindergarten.
Yeah, but I bet their mom is their best friend.
Yeah. I know who their mom's best friend is, and it takes batteries.
Ooh.
Sorry. Not a whole lot of men that would want to deal with that nasty brew. But the left tells a lot of lies. Scott and I were talking about. Let's talk about trendies.
Trendies are what are commonly known as hipsters. Let me first read a little bit about hipsters. This is from and
this is relevant because what we're attempting to describe is the erasing of all social norms. The difference between men and women. Okay, go.
All right, this is from the Urban Dictionary. It's a little lengthy, but bear with me. Hipsters are a subculture of men and women, typically in their 20s and 30s, that value independent thinking, counterculture, progressive politics, and appreciation of art and indie rock, creativity, intelligence, and witty banter. The greatest contributions of hipsters can be found living in the Williamsburg, Wicker Park, and Mission District neighborhoods of major cosmopolitan centers such as New York, Chicago, and San Francisco, respectively. Although hipsterism is really a state of mind, it is also often intertwined with distinct fashion sensibilities. Hipsters reject the culturally ignorant attitudes of mainstream consumers and can often be seen wearing vintage and thrift store-inspired fashions, tight-fitting jeans, old-school sneakers, and sometimes thick-rimmed glasses.
Old school meaning Converse.
Retro stuff, yeah. Both hipster men and women sport similar androgynous hairstyles that include combinations of messy shag cuts and asymmetric side-swept bangs. Such styles are often associated with the work of creative stylists at urban salons and are usually too edgy for the culturally sheltered mainstream consumer. The effortless, cool, urban, bohemian look of a hipster is exemplified in Urban Outfitters and American Apparel ads, which cater towards the hipster demographic.
Think Justin Bieber.
Yeah, good example. Despite misconceptions based on their aesthetic tastes, hipsters tend to be well-educated and often have liberal arts degrees or degrees in maths and sciences, which also require certain creative and analytical thinking abilities.
When you said well-educated, I wouldn't say well-educated. They've spent time in our universities.
Right.
I don't consider that well-educated.
Which also require Consequently, many hipsters tend to have jobs in the music, art, and fashion industries. It is a myth that most hipsters are unemployed and live off their parents' trust funds. Hipsters shun mainstream societal conventions that apply to dating preferences and traditional rules of physical attraction. It is part of the hipster central dogma not to be influenced by mainstream advertising and media, which tends to only promote ethnocentric ideals of beauty. The concepts of androgyny and feminism have influenced hipster culture, where hipster men are often as thin as the women they date. The muscular and athletic all-American male ideal is not seen as attractive by confident and culturally empowered hipster women, who instead view them as symbols of male oppression, sexism, and misogyny. Likewise, culturally vapid sorority-type girls with fake blonde hair, overly tan skin, and Britney Spears tube tops are not seen as attractive by cultured hipster males, who instead see them as symbols of female insecurity, low self-esteem, and lack of cultural intelligence and independent thinking. Hipsters are also very racially open-minded, and the greatest number of interracial couples in any urban environment are typically found within the hipster subculture. Although hipsters are technically conformists within their own subculture, in comparison to the much larger mainstream mass, they are pioneers and leaders of the latest cultural trends and ideals. For example, the surge of jeans made to look old and worn, i.e. distressed, that have become prevalent at stores such as The Gap, American Eagle, Abercrombie & Fitch, and Hollister were originally paraded by hipsters who shopped in thrift stores years before such clothing items were mass-produced and sold to the mainstream consumer. The true irony here is that many of the detractors of hipster culture are in fact unknowingly following a path that hipsters have carved out years before them. This phenomenon also applies to music as well, as many bands have become successful and known to mainstream audiences only because hipsters first found and listened to them as early adopters of new culture. Once certain concepts of fashion and music have reached mainstream audiences, hipsters move on to something new and improved. Because of the rise of various online photoblog and social networking sites, insights into urban hipster culture is reaching sheltered suburban audiences at an exponential rate. Cultural norms have been deconstructed by hipster culture as a whole. Hipsterism is often dismissed as just an image thing by some, but the culture as a whole is affecting changes in society, leading to feelings of insecurity and resentment in people who are no longer part of the cultural ruling class. For example, a lot of anti-hipster sentiment evidently comes from culturally clueless suburban frat boy types who feel that the more sensitive, intelligent, and culturally aware hipster ideal threatens their insecure sense of masculinity. Anti-hipster sentiment often comes from people who simply can't keep up with social chains or are envious of those who can. A conversation outside a hipster bar in downtown New York City goes as follows. Frat boy number 1, dude, are you having any luck picking up chicks in there? Frat boy number 2, man, I haven't experienced anything like this before. These chicks are totally rejecting me and going for all those hipster guys in tight pants and shaggy hair instead. Frat boy number 1, maybe we should head back up to that bar in Murray Hill where you hooked up with that drunk chick from Alpha Sigma Phi last week. Frat boy number 2, yeah, I don't think we have what it takes to compete with these guys in here. These hipster chicks won't even give us the time of day. Some other short definitions of hipster are someone who listens to bands you've never heard of, wears ironic t-shirts, and believes they are better than you. Here's another one. Is this the one I read to you earlier? Yeah. A hipster is someone who is smart enough to talk about philosophy, music, politics, art, etc. with you all day, but not smart enough to see how big of a tool she or he is. The only surefire way to tell if someone you're talking to is in fact a hipster is to ask them, "Are you a hipster?" If they respond no and turn their cassette player back on, you can be sure you're dealing with a hipster. Anyway.
The point in all of this is the anti-male, that basically hipsterism is anti-traditional male, and that's what they're trying to do. I was driving down the road the other day, and here's what a hipster is. I saw what appeared to be a teenage girl and a teenage boy. Teenage girl was walking and acting like a teenage girl does, but unfortunately, so was the boy. He was walking just like the girl, was making flamboyant gestures all over the place, and he was dressed like Scott just explained. He had his hair cut just the same, and they're just confused.
They wear flannel too a lot.
They're confused. It's just an attempt to destroy. I hate to say it, to destroy men. You know, we're increasingly becoming closer and closer to resemble the Soviet Union. And one of the ways the Soviet Union controlled the masses, first of all, was to destroy the family, which they're doing a very good job. Then they had to destroy the male, because a strong male is a nemesis of a strong government. When you have strong men, it's harder for a government to take control. But when you sissify them, like they seemingly are, they basically roll over, and they're becoming easy. You know, they just want to get along, and then basically the woman is married to the state, and you know the man is just this. I don't know, what is he? A remnant? I don't know what he is. He's
an anachronism.
In a communist society, men are basically fodder in wars.
And real quick, another sign of a typical hipster male: unfortunate facial hair.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, go into Starbucks. A lot of hipsters work there.
You know, and all of this is disingenuous, this idea, you know, you hear from the left that you know, the difference between men and women is all cultural. Oh, BS. We got an X and a Y chromosome.
It's biological.
And women have 2 Y chromosomes. All they're trying to do is sell you a bill of goods, which many of them know to be false. Putting a pink dress on a boy no more makes him a girl than painting stripes on a horse makes him a zebra. Okay? They're going, everything is against nature. Everything they do is against nature. Everything they do is destructive. Everything they do is a lie. Sorry. I mean, I know that's such a generality.
And what is, I'm going to get on the spiritual thing again. What does Satan always do? He takes something that's normal, that's of God, and flips it on its back 180 degrees.
And you can't tell me that Lucifer, i.e. Satan, isn't it looking at this one and laughing? He's going, what? I really convinced them to think that there's no difference between a boy and a girl? And while at the same time he's laughing, the Lord is crying.
Yep.
We're his creation. He knows exactly what we were created for.
Yep.
And, but this is all a plan. It's, and again, so many of these people, these, what do you call them? Indies or, hipsters, whatever. They're just dupes. You know, all boys ever want is acceptance by girls. And it's right now the girls are calling the shots and the boys, I guess they're okay with being little femmes, you know?
I think two things started it. Remember not long ago, in the last 20 years, 15, 20 years, where it was said that women wanted a sensitive guy?
I don't know what they want, because 1 minute...
But that was the big thing you heard, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that and grunge rock.
Well, now they're saying that they want an assertive male and so forth. You know what? If you're taking your cues by what you think women want, you're making a big mistake.
They don't know what they want.
Right.
Your best bet is to be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if nature prevails, which it does, women are going to like a manly male for the most part. And the ones that don't want a manly male, trust me, you don't want anything to do with.
I mean, it's be yourself. Eventually, you're going to find someone who appreciates you for who you are. You know? Pretty much.
So what else? I was going to get into, but we don't have enough time. This is worthy of a whole hour. This is the Federal Reserve, man. That's
yeah. We got to do that next week.
Yeah, we gotta. I wanted to talk about money versus currency and about Rothschild and all those guys, but it's gonna take too long. But going back to this trendy thing, the vanishing of the walls between female and male. I got to go back to the Bible on this one. Hosea 4:6. My people perish or are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's who would let these I don't even know what to call them, dictate things like that to you? I mean, come on, these are fundamental differences.
It's a fashion industry. Fashion mavens dictate.
But it's more than that. They don't do anything by mistake. Look, there's an all-out war. They talk about the war on women. No. The war is not on women. The war is on little boys. Being a boy in a school is like a disease. I mean, how many of these trendies, Scott, do you think were probably put on Ritalin at the age of 5?
Well, quite a number of them.
I'll guarantee you. So they had, from day one, they had the little boy beat right out of them. Drugged right out of them.
They just wanted it because they don't want to take the time to give them the attention they need.
It's a hostile place for a little boy. School is. Okay, why do you think women far outnumber men in institutions and in the institutions of higher learning right now? I want to say it's like 60-40 now, women to men. Well, who would want to sit in such an environment where you're constantly, it's the only class of people that are allowed to be outwardly and openly castigated, made fun of, bastardized as white men. Yep. Well, who would want to sit through that? And the degrees, what they learn is worthless.
Here's the other thing too. I don't know too many females that have been prescribed Ritalin.
They don't.
I don't.
It's the destruction of the male. Everything male is bad. Listen, my son was in preschool at the age of 4. Wasn't even in kindergarten yet. And I went to pick him up one day, and the teacher's aide pulled me aside and he said, Mr. Mitchell? I said, yeah. Well, we've been observing your son, and he seems to have the traits of hyperactivity. I don't even know if they called it ADD back then. Some sort of hyperactivity. And I said,
just hyperactivity is what it is.
Let's just call it ADD. I forget the exact word she used. And I said, and you're an expert on this? And she said, well, no, but I do have a list of outward signs, and he has 7 of the 10. And I said, can you show me that, that list? And she pulls out this list, and it was made by the drug manufacturer, made Ritalin. So, my son was a normal 4-year-old boy, full of life and full of energy. That's what he was. So you know what we did the next day? We took him out of that school. And my wife became one of the biggest executives of one of the most popular, successful charter schools here in Phoenix. In other words, we started a school with other people. And she's the CEO of it right now. My ex-wife. Did I say my wife? My ex-wife. But anyway, it was sometimes good things start with, less than, what am I looking for? Sometimes there's a silver lining
to a dark cloud.
There we go. So yeah, I mean, there's a war on boys. There's no doubt about it. Everything is geared towards the girls. And the sad part about it is they use their perceived victimhood as a cudgel. Now, how perverted is that? You use your perceived victimization and you beat boys over the head with it.
Well, here's something. I just found an article. Girls get extra school help while boys get Ritalin.
Yeah, and then you're always encouraged. They have take your daughters to work day. Remember that one?
And this is 11 years old, this article, by the way.
Take your daughters to work day because we've been neglecting girls for all those years, these years. Really? So yeah, this is all, it's all mumbo jumbo. It's made to make men weak. In order to take over society, you have to do a lot of things. You got to take away guns. You got to make boys into girls. You got to make society as weak as possible. The family, everything has to be weak. So then, what do people look to? The government. Personally, I see very clearly, and I've never looked. I basically want the government to leave me alone.
This whole thing about women not making as much money as men, or not having positions of authority as men, like men do, just based on where I work, that's a bunch of BS. Do you realize where I work, I venture to say that 75 to 80% of the employees are female, for one thing. And out of the positions of authority, the majority are held by women. If they're not making, you can't tell me they're not making good salaries. I see the cars they drive. I see the clothing they wear, the jewelry they wear. You can't tell me that they are. I work with there's this one couple in there that I work with. And the wife has a position of higher authority than the husband does. Not by much.
I don't find that hard to believe. But the one part of that video with the little girls that I just found utterly disgusting was the one stat where they said 1 out of every 5 women will be raped in their lifetime.
Yeah, that's just.
And there was 5 girls, and the first one says, "Is it going to be me, or is it going to be?" And the other one says, "Or me, or me, or me." And this idea that this war on women, that they're going to be raped. Now, I can't tell you that I've never met, not all women that have been raped, that's not something they talk about on a, everyday basis. But the numbers, it's not 20%.
No.
It's not 20%. Now, there are some lechers out there that, do things that they shouldn't do. I see that every day. So I'm not saying that there aren't men that do that, but there's also women that do that. There's also women that like being treated that way. Not that I would have anything to do with one of those women, but I've seen it. But the thing that I hated about the video is when the little girl said, basically, teach your boys not to rape. Really?
Which implies that they're being taught to rape.
Teach your boys not to rape while they sit there and every other word out of their mouth is the F-bomb. I thought it was satire. I really thought it was something from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But no, you see, that's the thing, is the left comes off as, the stuff is so ridiculous that's what you leave thinking. But I used to laugh, but you know what? They implement a lot of their ideas. They follow through with this insanity.
And by the way, this commercial was put together by a for-profit t-shirt company. It's for their shirts. They are a for-profit t-shirt company that uses the proceeds to further causes like this.
And it's called, I can't print,
right.
F hate. H
right.
And the number 8. F hate.
Yeah.
And if anyone's purveying hate, it's them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But getting back to the ridiculousness of the left, if they weren't so dangerous, they would be laughable, but they are dangerous.
I hate to go back on the gay or homosexual marriage issue, but if you were to tell me 30 or 40 years ago that the states, Arizona just got forced, by the way, to be one of those states to allow gay marriage, forced because we voted against it, but the judges overturned it.
And they want to make us pay.
Now, if you were to have told me 30, 40 years ago that how many states is it now? It's got 30?
33, I think.
33 something. Would have allowed, yeah, there you go, gay marriage, I would have laughed right in your face. Oh, what, two men getting married? Two women getting married? No way.
Yep.
But so that's why you can't laugh at them, because they follow through with this crap.
Mm-hmm.
How about the weird woman that went in the chicken place the other day? People, the
chicken place.
Oh, yeah, it was a place where people, chicken sandwich, it wasn't Chick-fil-A, it was some other place, and she filmed and put it on YouTube. Basically, she was lamenting the fact that they were eating her little pet. She's got a pet chicken. And basically it was animal, she was sitting there telling the people the conditions that the chickens live in before they're killed, and that, they were eating her baby, and that, and she puts it on YouTube. And how about the animal rights activists who strip off their clothes and start protesting naked? What's the point? I get your issue. I get your animal rights, your fur, your aversion to fur and throwing, and so forth. And then you throw blood on people, which I don't get. But I don't, what's the point in this, in taking your clothes off? There's a disconnect there. It's nonsensical.
Unless you got a body worth taking your clothes off, no one's going to pay attention to you.
But it's more of that, here, look at me thing. That's what it is. It's look at me.
Yeah.
And that's what these little girls were. Hey, look at me. I'm being naughty. Their point never even got through because people were looking and were appalled that grown-ups would ever even do this to children. And where are these parents? What kind of parents are these?
Parents that should have the kids taken away from them. I'm sorry, but yeah, in that case, I'll have to say
I'm sorry. I had my mouth washed out with soap when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Bite down on that bar, my father had said.
Oh, yeah. That was
and that was for a dam or a hell.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Scott and I never heard the F word, up until a certain time. But
yeah.
With my parents never used that. And they wouldn't tolerate it to be used by either one of us. That's for sure.
Nope.
But so what else happened this week?
I'm trying to remember now. Well, he had the shootings up in Canada and the axe attack in New York.
Well, that has been ruled a terrorist attack by the NYPD. Came right out.
Yeah, you won't hear it from the president though, or John Kerry or.
Oh, on a sad note, the financial journalist from Fox. What was her name? The blonde. She died of a.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah. Look it up, Scott. She was. I can see her face. You'd know her when you see her. In fact, Cavuto did a short.
Jerry Wills.
Huh?
Jerry Wills.
Oh,
Terry Keenan.
Yeah, Terry Keenan. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember her.
Yeah, she died of a brain hemorrhage. She's my age, born in 61, 53 years old.
Yeah, you haven't seen her for a while on there. She's been gone for quite some time.
But Cavuto did today on Bears and Bulls and Bears, I think it was Bulls and Bears, did a quick memorial to her. But, yeah, during that, they were doing a debate about shutting down flights from West Africa, and I still don't get this. Do you know that there are 12 nations?
I didn't know she was that old.
Yeah. It's my age.
But
they were debating. Of course, the lefties and the conservatives are they where they fall on this one. The lefties are all for not for not restricting flights. Did you know, out of West Africa, did you know that there are 12 African nations that are doing it themselves? Yep. 12 African nations. And you can't call that racism, that's for sure. What is wrong with you know, I mean, do we even need to debate this? You know, you've got a very awful disease, and all we're doing is taking precautions. You know, it might be overblown. This may just blow over, and it might be overblown. But why chance it? What's it going to hurt to either stop flights or at least really screen and monitor those that do come here?
It's a disease that's being given civil rights, just like AIDS was in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, did you also hear that Obama issued a work order for the companies who make green cards to make as many as 34 million of them?
Yep.
So there's your fundamental change. There's your hope in change, America. And he's doing it all with a stroke of a pen. And Congress is sitting there like neutered little, I don't know, what do you want to call them?
And once again, going back to the purpose of executive orders. Executive orders are meant to be used to help implement legislation that's been passed into law and signed by the president, not to create law like he's using it for.
Did you also see that it is estimated that up to 6% of illegals, that's illegals out here in the United States, up to 6% of them may have voted in the last election.
Enough to turn the election.
That was what the article was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Our whole system has been bastardized.
How many people voted in the last election? About 50,000? Or 50 million? 50 million?
Something like that.
6% would be about 3 million. That would have turned the election right there.
And the fact that this is little known is just really disappointing. I feel, it's like we get hit with so many body blows that it's like, where do you start?
I know, it's a perfect storm. It's hard to keep up with everything. It really is. And the reason why the left can do it is because guess what? A lot of them don't work. Or their whole job is nothing but keeping on top of that stuff.
Well, they're voting for Santa Claus. Here's what you have, and the libs figured this out several election cycles ago, that there's really two parts to the electorate, the Democrat electorate. You have the high level elites, which are your college professors, your really wealthy people, and the very poor. Basically, it reflects communism. 1984, you have the proletariats, and you have the elite, where Republican Party is the vast majority of its middle class.
Mm-hmm.
Very middle class.
And then you got the Democrats, the majority of their elites are they're poor.
So you've got all these poor people in the Democrat Party that are just voting for their own paycheck. I mean, it's really sad. And I used to laugh when people would say, when I'd hear this statement, if you're on the public dole, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. I'd laugh at them until you start thinking about it. Well, why, who are you going to vote for? I mean, if you're on the public dole, you're going to vote for those who promise you more neat stuff.
There was a time when you couldn't vote unless you were a landowner,
mm-hmm.
which meant you had a vested interest in the success of the country.
Well, there's going to be the middle class is shrinking under this president, although he continues to extol the virtues of the middle class and so forth. But here's what you have to, every time Obama speaks, take everything he says and flip it on its head.
Or any of them.
Yeah, just go the opposite direction. And what they're saying is opposite of what they mean. Although Obama did really tell you what he was going to do. He did tell you he was going to fundamentally transform America. He did tell you he was going to destroy the coal industry. He told you a lot of this stuff.
Kevin was telling me earlier this week, if you really want to find out what the truth is, don't look at the news. Look at popular culture.
It's true. They really tell you what's going on.
Yeah. Movies, music, television, books, whatever.
I saw an article today by one of the CEO of Tesla, and he was talking about artificial intelligence. And
Elon.
Yeah, what was his name? Elon. And it was about a 60-second clip. And basically what he said, he said, you better really have a grip on AE, he said, because you could open up the gates of hell.
I've seen that.
I think those were his words. He said, and the interviewer said, you mean like Hal on Space Odyssey, 2001 Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Hal, what was his name?
Hal 5000.
Hal 5000. And he says, oh, no, it'd be much worse than that. He said, Hal 5000, nothing compared to what we can already do, with AE.
Yep.
And, AI, I mean. And, so that
Elon Musk.
Yeah. And I found that, and then when the guy, the Google guy, what's his name? The head of all their A&E.
I forget his name.
Oh, why can't I think of his name? Glenn Beck talks about him all the time. Oh yeah, he's he talks about, immortality in the sense that, they're going to download your brain to a computer, and then when you die, they'll still keep you around.
Like that Johnny Depp movie from last year, Transcendence.
I didn't see that.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, he was played a really wealthy scientist that was dying of brain cancer, and he has consciousness uploaded to a computer.
But the people who buy into that crap are really, I believe, non-believers, because what they're doing is pretty much discounting the soul.
Yeah.
I mean, uploading somebody's, their whatever, their brain or whatever. That's just a hard drive. The brain's nothing more than it's like the heart. It's an organ. It's no more you than your fingernail is.
Here's the thing you got to ask yourself. Going back to the Frankenstein analogy.
Frankenstein.
How come it is that you can't reanimate a dead corpse and have it have personality and everything?
Because the life force is out of it.
Exactly.
Did you see that thing I posted yesterday? What word am I looking for? The Victorian age.
Yeah.
Why was that so hard to come out? What the Victorian age people would do with their dead people, they would pose with them after they were dead. They would
before they buried them,
like a little kid. They would have them posing with the other kids, smiling and stuff.
It was really creepy.
Really creepy.
Yeah.
But
it really was.
That was when they were doing weird, a lot of seances and trying to talk to the spirit world and so forth.
That was afterwards. That was back in the day when
and all those,
Harry Houdini was popular.
Yeah, they were really getting into the creepy side of life.
Yeah, some of it was really creepy, and they would do it in a lot of cases, no matter how the person died.
Yeah, some of it, like there was this one with a woman who had half of her eyeball hanging out and chunks of skin off of her face.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, but it was, anyway.
I bet Rob Zombie's got a collection of those photos.
I hate Rob Zombie movies. I saw one.
I haven't seen any.
House of 10,000 Corpses once, and it was just more than I could.
I haven't seen it.
I really hate horror movies. I just, gratuitous.
I like real horror movies.
Killing.
One of the best horror movies I ever saw was Alien. Yeah, that's real horror.
I can deal with that, but I'm talking about, things like Saw.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Just
and things like The Ring,
Chainsaw Massacre,
like The Ring.
I love The Ring, personally.
Or The Grudge.
The Ring frightened the crap out of me.
Really, me too.
That little girl. Oh, I still have dreams about her.
Yeah, and then The Grudge with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
And what they both had in common, they're originally Japanese.
Yes, they were. All right, folks, that about wraps it up for today. But never fear, we will be back next Saturday. I apologize if you were trying to get us on Phoenix Underground Radio, but there were some problems this week. The company that hosts the radio station had some hardware issues, and I'm having to upload everything all over again, start from scratch to build the radio station. But I should have it up again on Sunday by the end of the day tomorrow. We will hopefully have it up in time to do the rebroadcast of this show on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And I know you won't find this too sexy, but we're going to talk about money next week in the Federal Reserve. Now, it doesn't sound interesting, but it ought to be.
It's more interesting than you think it is. Yeah. I didn't think it would be until I started looking at it. You
don't really realize how our system works.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao.